Thanks, guys. Cool. So thanks everyone for coming. Today we are going to be continuing the Claude series that we've been doing for the past month or so and extending the knowledge and the ability to use some of these really cool features that Claude has been rolling out. And so this particular talk is specifically centered around using Claude routines and Claude scheduled tasks. So these are, similar tools that are put out by Claude. One is local to Claude Desktop, and one is hosted in the cloud, so usable with Claude AI and Claude Desktop. And so they have a little bit of a difference in their use cases, as we will go over. And we'll go through a number of different, very specific things that we can implement for both of those different tools. So hopefully all of you have either scanned the QR code or opened up the slides by typing in the URL here. For anyone who wanted to have the slides up, later on in the presentation, we'll have links to both the setup guides and the homework guides, which will give you the prompts to actually paste in and a quick setup and tutorial of Claude if you are unfamiliar. This is the fourth talk in the series. We're not going to be delving into the actual setup all that much. And so real quick, before we dive in deeper, a little bit about myself and the AI Collective. So the AI Collective is one of the largest AI organizations in the world. We have over 230,000 members and 190 something chapters. So put on events all across the world, digitally and in person. And it's one of the greatest communities that I've ever, been blessed to be part of. And I've met, a great number of colleagues and friends and mentors and everything within this group. So it's great. I would suggest everyone join who can, who is interested in, and we have a link later on that will get you access to the Slack channel, and you can find the link to all the events and everything. And about myself, so I've been in tech for 25 years, 12 in AI. I've worked for a number of large tech companies and startups and written a few books and all that kind of fun stuff. And lately, I actually just started up a brand new tech startup to capitalize on some of the AI stuff that I've been doing. It looks like someone has their hand raised. All right, you guys asked a few questions. All right. So if you missed the earlier webinars, is there a way you can view them? So yes, we have a YouTube channel that has all of them in there. You can also go through Meetup and see all of the links in the previous completed meetings. And you can also go to our Slack channel, which has all of these events, both the slides and the meeting recordings, in our Hampton Roads public channel. So you join the Slack channel, you have to search for and then go into the Hampton Roads public channel. And then you should see the posts that I've made after, usually the day after each of the previous events, and view all of the topics. So any of those work? All right, and then you asked where the recording will be available. In all of those places that I just listed. In addition, everyone who signed up for this event, like as an officially registered person on Meetup or Luma, will get a follow-up email in the next day or two that has the recording and all of the associated links. So you'll get it via the email, and you can also get it via any of the other channels that I just mentioned. All right. So the agenda today, as I was alluding to, we're going to be talking about putting Claude on Autopilot. And there are two major tools for doing that, Claude routines and Claude scheduled, as we talked about. So we're going to go into both of those, a little bit about the tech in general. Then we're going to go into the setup. Then we're going to look at 10 different automations that you can set up and run without you being there, and the cool things that can enable for you in your life and your business and whatever profession you do. Then we're going to talk a little bit about how to extend this, how to get the automations to talk to and work with each other. Then we're going to present a few resources, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A again. And you guys can ask anything, tech related really, and I'll do my best to answer it. So the problem, as we've been seeing with some of the other Claude related talks that we've done, is that we build a bunch of automations and they require us as human beings to press the button to make it run. And then we have to go back and review it, right? And that is a problem that both scheduled tasks and routine solve, in that they are both a set and sometimes forget type tool where you put in the same or very similar type prompt, and then you configure either a trigger event or a scheduled time to run it, and it will run or trigger on its own. So the local desktop tasks you can't actually trigger. Those are more for the routines, which exist in Claude AI, so in the cloud. But a lot of the other tasks that you do on a regular routine basis can be scheduled for a specific day and time, and then you can do them hourly, weekly, monthly, whatever suits your cadence. So as we were alluding to, we have scheduled tasks and routines. They are very similar in what they do, but different in the specific use cases that they're best utilized for. So scheduled tasks live on your desktop. And why that's important is because Claude Desktop, you can give access to all of the other stuff on your desktop. So your files that are, located on any one of your drives, your local collection of pictures or videos or whatever it is, the applications that you use on your desktop. One very cool application that came out with an MCP that Claude can pilot very, very recently, like a couple of days ago, is Blender, which is a 3D modeling tool, which I promptly connected and tested, and it built about 100 different 3D models for me, which was very cool to see how it actually does that and what the outputs look like, and then what you can string together from that kind of thing. So only a tool like Claude Desktop with the scheduled tasks can do that, right? Because it needs access to your local machine, and routines, which is hosted in the cloud, does not have access to your local machine. Another difference is the ability to do browser use. So routines is all about API and MCP connections, and scheduled tasks is about automating the things that are on your local machine. So it can do browser automation as well. So if you need to plan your vacation, and that is part research and then part booking, through Priceline or whatever other ticket booking tool you use, Claude can actually be given your credit card details and go ahead and book for you on, the flight, book your hotels, book all of that for you using browser automation. So that is, again, something only specific for Claude Desktop, and you can wire in those type of tools in the recurring scheduled tasks that you set up. For routines, those are, again, hosted in the cloud, and so the capabilities are different. Everything you're going to connect has to be connected through an API or an MCP connector, and so it can't access the stuff you have on your local machine. If you need files that you would otherwise have locally, you need to drag them into Dropbox, drag them into Google Drive, something like that, and then give Claude AI access, and that way it can run in the cloud. Or you're going to be able to do things like connect your GitHub, and then every time you push code to your GitHub, that can actually trigger one of these routines to be triggered off of that Git push. And then you can do like a code review or a security scanner or whatever is appropriate for the type of project that you're working on. And this skill, as it says here, is very new. It's less than a month old, which is why we wanted to run this particular talk, because it's very new and very cool and very powerful and really augments the scheduled tasks quite a bit. All right, so we're going to dive into the demo here pretty quickly. So the first part is doing the setup. So we have the setup guide here. Input the URL. If you guys have the slides up, you can click the slide link, or you can scan the QR code, and I'll check the chat here in case anyone's having any issues. No, doesn't look like we have any questions. If you do have any questions, just dump them into chat. You don't need to raise your hand or anything, and I'll check back every few slides. Let's go ahead and bring up the setup guide. So we're just going to skim through this quickly because hopefully you guys have watched the other talks that we've given, which have gone over setting up Claude Desktop and Claude Code. And so hopefully those are already installed, but for those who don't have them installed, they are a relatively simple process. You typically just need to go to the Claude site and install Claude Desktop. It does require a Pro or Max subscription. So the Pro is the $20 a month, the Max is the $100 or $200 a month subscription. And that does affect and or limit the amount of routines you can use, which is the AI or the cloud version of these recurring tasks. You can have 5 with a Pro account and 15 with a Max account, but that is 5, I believe, on a daily basis. So I think you can set it up so that you could do, 35 tasks potentially on a weekly basis, scheduling 5 on per day, and do it that way. All right, so you install Claude Desktop. It's pretty easy. There's a downloadable on their website. Just go ahead and install it, open it up. There's permissions that you need to enable, and then authentication you need to do depending on if it's the first time that you've set this up. And then once you're done with that, you want to go to cowork mode. So there's 3 buttons at the top. On the top left, there's chat, cowork, and code. By default, at least for me, when I install this, it goes to chat. So you'll want to go to either cowork or code. Code has the Claude routines, which again allows you to utilize the cloud. Whereas cowork has access to the scheduled tasks, which is what are going to run locally on your machine. And then for the actual tasks that we're going to do, that we're going to set up, we need to grant a folder access to them. Depending on your machine and your operating system, that can be very easy or take a few steps. So if you're having issues, again, just bring up a Claude chat tab and you can post in all of your issues and work through them with Claude. I even have, we teach kids and stuff, and children as young as 6 years old are able to troubleshoot what would otherwise require professional, tech workers, utilizing Claude and GPT and everything now. So it's very easy to do, and Claude, especially with Claude Desktop, having access to all of your local files, can even troubleshoot blue screens and other, serious issues on your computer, to include permissions type issues that you might run into with granting folder permissions. All right, yeah, thanks for linking that, Joaquin. All right, so updating, hopefully no one has any pending updates. The updates from Claude can actually lock out the Claude Desktop and require you to reboot to actually get it again. So I wouldn't actually recommend updating right now, but certainly you want to keep Claude updated in a general sense because they keep rolling out new tools, new features every few days, which is incredible for an enterprise-sized company to be doing. You also need to configure your computer to stay awake. If you were using scheduled tasks, right? Scheduled tasks is part of the Claude Desktop, and it requires your computer to be on to run the tasks. So if your computer is not normally on at 6:30 in the morning, you need to make sure it's on at 6:30 in the morning if you have a task scheduled for 6:30 in the morning. So I personally wake up early, and so my morning briefing task is set for early in the morning. And so my computer, I turn off the monitors, but I leave the computer, my desktop running, and it goes ahead and does the morning briefing for me at like 4 o'clock. So it's ready by the time I look at it at 4:30 or 5. So make sure your computer is on and awake if you're going to be using these scheduled tasks. But for routines, they're running in the cloud, so you do not need to have your computer on during that time. All right, you can run a test task first to make sure that it works. Just copy and paste this prompt. So you go into cowork, and so we can test this real quick. So I will share screens and go over to Claude Desktop real quick, and we'll do the scheduled task. So present Claude. All right, looks like that loaded fine. All right, so we're in scheduled tasks in Claude Desktop, and the test said to create a new task, scheduled task, and just put it in the prompt. So we're just going to name this test and description, test that this works. And the frequency, I mean, we are setting up scheduled tasks, but we just want this one to be run manually because it's only going to be a test, and then we're going to delete it. So we do that. I'm going to give it access to my downloads folder, and then I'm going to have it default to ask. The default model isn't important for this because it's a very simple task, so you can use, even Haiku for this. But in the future, if you're doing complex agentic workflows, Opus is the best model in the world for doing complex agentic workflows, followed by GPT 5.5, and then Kimi Moonshot. So if you guys use something other than Claude Desktop, or you use one of the custom mods that allows you to use any model with Claude Desktop, those are the 3 models that you want to use for actual agentic workflows. But if you're doing simpler workflows like single file creation or file editing, things like that, then you can use just about any model, any recent model that is. So the test task created, we click run now, it will run it. You can click view, see what it's actually doing. It should just output a test file in my documents folder, but we can see what it's doing. And then after we finish this, we can go hop into, oh, something went wrong. The conversation's too long. That is a very weird error, considering how short the conversation is. All right, well, maybe it's a limitation of Haiku. We can try it again, though. It's always fun when things break on live talks. All right, let's go back and test and see if it is a limitation of Haiku. Oh, okay. The current error. Are you saying, JD, are you saying that is an error with scheduled tasks or an error with Claude Desktop, or what's the context? Okay, interesting. I wonder if it depends on the model we're using, or... Okay, it looks like other people are having success, so maybe we'll try it again and utilize a different model. So maybe we'll just use Opus, which should have a larger context window. All right, it looks like Michael or Misael, sorry if I mispronounced your name, and Ronald were able to correctly create it. All right, yeah, it looks like it's working just fine with a different model. So maybe it's a limitation of Haiku and the context window size for Haiku. as some of the tools and things that it might be using could eat up some of the context space. All right, let's go back to the setup document. So there are connectors that need to be set up. Hopefully you guys still have the connectors that we set up previously, because I think those are the only ones that we need. They are Gmail and Calendar, Google Drive, those type of connectors. I can show you real quick on here how we do it. So connectors are, if you didn't see, I went ahead and I clicked in the bottom left, click settings, go to connectors, and within connectors, there are a whole bunch of connectors that you can connect. And so Google Calendar, Gmail, Google Drive are going to be the primary ones for these. I don't recall any additional ones, but if there are additional ones, we will bring them up. They're relatively easy to configure. To search for any of the connectors that we need to set up, you can go to Browse Connectors. You can type in Gmail. Gmail will pop up. If you have a different mail service, go ahead and type in the other mail service. Calendar, you can type in Calendar, and it will give you options for your calendar, including Microsoft 365 if you use Microsoft instead of the Google Suite. And Drive, we have Google Drive. There are ways to connect other storage platforms. With 365, you get OneDrive, and then I'm actually not sure if there's an Apple. There is Apple Notes. I don't think the Apple Cloud is on here though. Probably need a custom MCP connector for it. But there's ways to connect pretty much any cloud-related tool that you want to be using. And it's all done here. And then if for some reason you need to connect a custom connector, right? Obviously not for what we're doing here, but if you guys are interested in MCPs, adding a custom connector right here, you put in the name and then the URL of the MCP server. So it's pretty easy to set up. Sometimes you need to log in with an actual ID and password. And so you can input the OAuth credentials there as well. So that's how you can access basically an MCP of any type. So you're not actually limited to the connectors that they advertise in the store here, or the marketplace. So going back to our task, it looks like this completed. I see the actual file in my downloads folder. And so we are good to proceed. Hopefully everyone is able to follow. Yeah, you asked, can we create our own MCP connectors? Yes, you absolutely can. And actually the MCP connector that I have connected to my Claude desktop for Gmail, Drive, and Calendar connects 8 of my business emails all into a single MCP connector. Otherwise, you're limited to one-to-one with the native one that Claude offers. So if you have multiple Gmail accounts or multiple email accounts, you can create a custom MCP server that will allow you to connect as many as you want. So would you recommend connecting Claude to LinkedIn? So yes, LinkedIn is very strict with content automation and outreach automation. Now, there's a couple ways to look at that. They are very strict in what you actually do and how many people you reach out to and the type of content that you can automate. So they have very narrow guardrails. And the tools that I've used before, the primary of which is called Meet Alfred, which is a LinkedIn automation tool, is very good at staying within the rules. And there's many rules you have to follow if you're going to do this type of automation. If you fail to stay within, the framework that they give you, you absolutely can get banned or even shadow banned, which in some ways is worse because you generally don't get out of shadow banning. They just keep you in there for a long period of time, months to years. And then it will look like you're doing stuff, but no one will actually see it. So it can be very bad. Yeah, Meet Alfred, MEETALFRED. Yeah, Meet Alfred. So that tool still works. I have campaigns running on it right now. It stays within the lines. It has had a single restriction on one of the accounts that I've used it on. And that was because we went over the maximum threshold of the total number of people that we could send connection requests to. It went over 500, and that was only because we had a setting that was put on max for the removal of people that we reached out to that hadn't yet accepted the invite request. So if you reach out and use the Meet Alfred tool, make sure that you have a lower setting on that. I think we had 30 days set on that or something, and it led to the expiration and temporary banning. It was like a 3-day banning for that, so it wasn't too bad. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. We need to switch over to the homework documents or the homework guide for getting the actual prompts that we're going to be doing for our scheduled tasks and routines. And so I am going to swap back over to the slides and give you the QR code and the link real quick. All right. So stop sharing, and then we're going to share a different screen. All right. So the homework document that has all of the prompts that we're going to be looking at for the rest of our time together today is going to be housed in this document. The QR code, again, if you're using a phone or other device that scans QR codes, or the link, which if you have the slides open, you can use that way. I will just post this link in chat real quick because we don't have any moderators from my team working on it right now. So there's the actual homework link. The homework link should bring up the homework resource guide, as you guys can see. And this guide is going to go over all 10 of the prompts that we allude to in the slide deck. And these are all copy and pastable from this document into your Claude scheduled tasks or Claude routines, depending on the actual use case that we're looking at. And it will get a functional tool built for you very quickly and easily. So as you can see, the structure of how these are laid out, it gives you the overall idea of what this is going to do. The scheduling, again, mine is personally set for 4 a.m. The connectors that you want to connect to make this usable, and then the prompt itself. So the prompt itself, you're just going to copy and paste. And I believe I already have this because we've done this a number of times in our talks before. Looks like I have file cleanup in there. Let's check. Do I have it in routines? Yeah, I have this currently set up in routines as the my morning briefing. So for you guys to do it, again, copy and paste this exact prompt. Oops. And then go into Cowork, click Scheduled, and I will swap over to Claude Desktop real quick so you guys can see what we're doing. So we're just doing a new task, and we name it the morning briefing. And yep, this is going to summarize everything for the day. Then we paste in that prompt. Then we choose the project folder we want to work with. We can give Claude the ability to work without approval or to require approval. It is up to you. Oftentimes I have it acting without approval, but it again depends on the task. One of the things we talked about earlier was using browser automation to book things with real money. For that, you probably want Claude to ask for every single step, but for simple things where they're not likely to break anything, it might be a little bit safer, but again, make your own judgment call. And being as this will be scanning through multiple meetings and multiple emails, so it's going to be a multi-step agentic process, they're going to want to use Opus for a lot of these. If you don't use Opus, you will have potentially degraded functionality. And I personally prefer Opus 4.6. It's a little bit more functional in my view than 4.7 is. But that is currently a hot button issue right now for a lot of users. And then set the frequency. So I have mine running daily. You set it up to be as useful as you'd like. If you want it daily or weekly, however you want to do it. And then set the time for it to run. Then you click save. And it is now a Claude task. And you can click run now if you want to run it now. Otherwise, it's going to be active and it's going to run at the time that you set. So again, what we put over here on the homework guide for the connectors required is Gmail and Google Calendar. So you have to make sure that those are actually connected to utilize this, but you aren't limited to just doing that. You can actually connect even more to it if you'd like to extend the solution, the application, or the scheduled task. All right, so some of these early ones are similar to ones we've done before, so we can scroll through those and get to maybe some of the more interesting ones. We've done file cleanup in the last talk that we did, so this is just a way to do it repetitively. But again, this is going to be run using scheduled tasks, so locally on your machine to clean files, unless you want to do a version of it that is going to clean out your Dropbox and or your Google Drive, in which case you need to make sure you connect Google Drive as one of the connectors, or Dropbox, and then tell it which locally mapped folders are part of Dropbox, and then it will go ahead and access them locally. So I do that. I mean, I mentioned Dropbox and Google Drive because I have both of those set up to run on not on this machine, but one of my other machines. And it's very useful. They'll actually go in and tag different things and replace the image tags and everything with the time and date and who's in the photos and all of that. So I set it to work on a lot of the family photos that my wife has uploaded, and it went in and it named or tagged like myself and my kids and all of that in the date that we actually did stuff. So it's very useful. All right, meeting prep. We've talked about this one before. This one real quick is especially for people that work for large companies or run a business where you have a lot of meetings and you don't necessarily remember the person, or you have like a booking calendar, you do sales or something, and the people put in their email, they might put in their LinkedIn profile link, something like that, but you've never met them before, you don't really know them or their business or really what they're on the call for, other than it, maybe if you're selling a good or service, or you're providing, something on behalf of a company. Then this type of meeting prep is fantastic because you can set it to run on a daily basis and add this type of contextual material to your morning briefing, which is going to give you a heads up like, hey, you have 5 meetings today. 3 of them are with people you don't know. And then if you combine these 2 together, it's going to be the 3 people that you don't know are, Bob from Amazon, and here's his background. Here's probably what he's going to be talking to you about. And so you could be easily prepped for all of the calls you have that day. It is very, very useful and something that I do literally every day. All right, so the next one, the Friday report. So this report is a weekly summary of all of the things that you've done. So it essentially compiles all of the daily briefings. We've talked about this one a little bit before, so we won't go too deep into implementing this one either. The weekly competitive intelligence is interesting. So I don't think we've done this one yet. So let's go ahead and do this task. It doesn't require any connectors, but it does require a little bit of thought on your side. So we're going to go ahead and put this in Claude. And so this one is actually applicable to both scheduled and routines. So it depends on you. If you want one of your routines, and you are limited in the routine slots that you have, right? You get 5 a day with Pro and 15 a day with Max. So if you want one of those dedicated to this, that's fine. But you do need to think about how to properly use this. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and create a scheduled task with this just to do it locally, because I have this machine on and it will be, it's on pretty consistently. So you do need to modify the text a little bit. So for mine, I'm going to modify the research folder to say my downloads folder, because I'm using Windows. If you utilize, Linux or Mac OS, maybe you have a different repository where you have everything download to. But you can define the folder, and as long as Claude Desktop has access to your local files and folders, it will dump it there. If you're doing routines, then you say, put it in my downloads folder in Google Drive or whatever other cloud storage you're using. And then you need to research competitors. So if you're working for, Amazon and your competitors are GCP, Google Cloud, or Azure, which is Microsoft's version of the stuff that, Amazon does, cloud provider. Then you're going to replace these with competing with Amazon and Google, and then maybe Alibaba Cloud and Oracle. So you modify it like that. Your competitors are now the other top 4 cloud providers in the world. And for each of them, you're going to check for product updates, pricing changes, new features, press coverage, job posting, and social media activity. So that's obviously a pretty big ask. You definitely want to have Opus running tasks like this, because each of these is going to be its own agentic process. It's going to spawn sub-agents that are going to handle each of these particular tasks for each of these competitors that you listed, right? So it's going to be 4 different companies times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tasks. So it has to run through 24 tasks to actually put this together for you. And so you need a very strong agentic software to run this. And so you want to be using Opus. Likewise, if you're trying to set this up in OpenClaw or one of the OpenClaw variants or another third-party harness, you can do the exact same thing, but you're going to want to, either use Opus, GPT 5455, or Kimi Moonshot, because those are the most capable models for agentic function. All right. So once you've modified this, you can go ahead and copy and paste it over into the task, and then you name it as we were describing before. So this is going to be competitor intelligence. And the description is get competitive intel on my competitors. Then you're going to give it access to whatever folder you want that file dumped to. Again, if you're using schedules, then you want to dump it to a local folder, most likely like your downloads folder. If you are working in routines, you can give it access to one of your cloud folders, again, like Dropbox or Google Drive or one of those. And then you're going to want to use the default model as Opus. And with multi-agent or multi-step agentic processes, here, I'm going to show you guys real quick. You typically don't want to allow it to, or you don't want to have it ask you every time it wants to do something. So typically I would turn these off. Again, it is up to you. even if you turn it off, you still probably want to babysit it to a degree, just to make sure that it's actually doing the stuff and it's not going in and messing up stuff in your Google Drive if you connect to Google Drive or your local file structure. It won't do that very often, but there are a few horror stories out there from people that enable it and do act without asking, and it deletes some critical file. So again, be careful with it. It doesn't happen very often, especially using Opus. They built in pretty good safeguards, but it still happens occasionally. And then set up the frequency. So I would set this up to run daily and then go ahead and save the task. Again, this is going to run daily for me and get competitive intel on those cloud providers that we talked about. So these are all pretty straightforward, right? Let's see if there's another good one to do before we hit 3 o'clock and we start to wrap things up and go to our Q&A section. So I'm going to switch back to the homework doc. All right, so we have the subscription watchdog. I have this one running as well. This is fantastic. Between my wife, myself, and my 3 kids, we have like 30 different subscriptions to different, channels and all sorts of subscription services. And so it's good to keep track of it and see which ones are expiring. And actually, you can add things like check to see the last time that you logged in, and it can go through your browser history and see the last time you loaded up Netflix and all of that. So it's kind of cool. And that way you can terminate subscriptions that you don't actually need anymore. So it's pretty cool. The expense reports, if you have expense reports, if that's part of your job, if you're sales, you travel a lot, this can be really useful. It doesn't necessarily work for a lot of people if you work from home. The content batching is great. So, someone brought up LinkedIn automation before. And so while direct automation, including through browser, is somewhat limited for some of the platforms, the batching and creation of the content itself is not limited really in any way. And so what I mean by that is you can have an end-to-end Claude content creation pipeline. And actually, I have several of these right now, where Claude creates a brand profile, and a brand profile is the coloration, the logos, the type of content you produce, all of that. And then like a strategy for the type of content that you produce. So if you produce short form content, short videos, you produce long form content, like the webinar that we're doing right now, right? Or you produce text only content or picture only content, whatever it is, you can have a series of examples that are built in, and then you create Claude skills from it, and you connect those skills, and then you grab the APIs for tools that create images and video. So some of the ones that I link are like Google AI Studio, which has Nano Banana and VO, which are image and video creation. Same thing for OpenAI. You can link their Sora model. You can link Kling AI, which is another video creation platform. You can link HeyGen, which creates video avatars of yourself. All of these are done by API key, which means that you set up the Claude skills, and the Claude skills just allow Claude to consistently and reproducibly create the kind of content that you want. And then you create the strategy skill that does the research and finds the trending topics that you want to post on in your niche. And so end to end, as you guys are seeing, you link the different pieces together, and then you create this type of recurring task. This is scheduled for weekly. Most of the ones that I do are daily and or even multiple times a day, depending on the content pipeline that we're discussing. But you can have this be creating you videos, UGC, user-generated content, text posts, LinkedIn posts, all sorts of different types of content that you want to test and, use to build your business or your personal brand, whatever it is. And then you as the human just do the posting yourself, right? You drag the file into LinkedIn, you copy and paste the text into the LinkedIn post, whatever it is, you press post or you press schedule. And that way, the algorithm of the site is not going to ban you for automation. And you will get bonus outreach because many of these platforms actually curtail the level of free outreach that you get on a per post basis if you're posting it via API. So if you're using an API platform like Buffer or Hootsuite or Blatato or one of those, then your outreach will be curtailed depending on the platform. So the end-to-end automation is not going to be as effective. But if you automate everything except for the actual posting piece, then you'll get a lot of free outreach. And obviously, if you spend more time on it, you curtail the content, make sure it's not AI slop, so it's actually really good, delivers on a problem that your audience has, all of that, then you'll get a tremendous amount of outreach. And so this particular scheduled task and or routine is incredibly effective, and I have variants of this that I use. I mean, they're literally going on right now. I have about 90 instances of Claude that are running stuff similar to this. So it's very, very effective. All right, the last one is the cleanup crew. So this is digital housekeeping, and so it's more sorting and file sorting and everything. So these are all good. There's a lot of additional things that you can do with schedules and routines, not just what we have here. I talked about some of them earlier, but they're not in this document. They are things like setting up triggers within routines that allow you to trigger on code pushes and things like that. I don't know if this document in particular talks about it or if it's one of our talks that are coming up. I'd have to check the content because I don't see it offhand in here. Oh, actually, yeah. Cloud automation for routines is actually in this document as well. So we have the API calls and the GitHub webhooks. The webhooks are kind of what I'm talking about, using those as triggers. And then you can even combine the triggers. And so this overview is kind of what I was talking about earlier, which is very good and very useful for developers. So that is great to continue on and extend, what we're doing and learning about here. I'm going to swap back to our slides real quick and go through a little bit of the remainder of the content, and then I'll open it up to Q&A for you guys, as I'm sure you'll have a few questions. So let's see. Yeah, we have the 10 different sections that we went over. Then we have chaining. So like this is getting the automations to talk to each other. The homework document actually goes into this a bit more in depth. So if you're interested on chaining multiple of these together or even combining them, like I was describing, the homework doc goes into more detail. Again, some of the uses for combining that I was talking about before have to do with, I think it was number 4 and number 1, right? So like the meeting prep and your morning briefing. So then when you're having your cup of coffee or breakfast or whatever, you can be reading through competitor information or details on the people that you're having meetings with. And that is very cool. You can even tie in things like, I have a repository for all of the meeting notes that I get. So I have, Google Gemini take notes of all of the meetings that I take, at least the ones using Google. And all of the meeting notes from those are dumped into a cloud folder. And then I have one of these scheduled tasks that distill all of that information and then push it over and make it available for my morning briefing. And so in addition to getting the competitor intelligence and the information on people that I'm meeting with, I also get tasks that I might have forgotten about otherwise from the previous meetings that I've done that get added both there, and then I do task tracking in Notion, so it pulls them into Notion directly as well. So it's another kind of thing that you can automate that isn't actually in here, but if you're watching this this webinar, you get some ideas for, which is pretty cool. So again, the homework resource guide right here. We have a few automation playbooks that are like 50 different automation prompts that you can copy and paste and do additional really cool stuff. If you are running a team or a business, right, you can book calls with us. We have a link for actually booking with the AI Collective as well in several of the documents. And important is the link tree. On the link tree is the link to the AI Collective Slack channel. The Slack channel is where you're going to be able to chat with all of the other people in the AI Collective. I think we have about 6,000 people in there right now. It's where you're going to be able to see a lot of the content that we put out as part of our channel in the Hampton Roads public channel within that Slack community, and where you can DM people directly. Myself, Ted, we have many other members, leads, and chapter leads that are in that conversation. So myself, Ted, Pratik, and Aaron. And then we have many of our community leads, which are like Luis and Sade and a few others. So lots of great people as part of this community that you can reach out to directly if you have questions on the tech, questions on getting connected with AI Collective, going to any of the events. So these are all great resources for anyone. Then we have a bunch of other links in here for various AI resources as well. So it's a great community, and I recommend it to anyone. So I am going to swap over to reading the channel now, or the chat now. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in chat, and I will answer them the best that I can. All right. So first question is, how much does it cost to set up these tasks? So all of these tasks are included in your monthly subscription. So the minimum subscription is the $20 a month subscription for the Pro account, and then the max is either $100 or $200. The max obviously gives you more routines, which are the cloud version, but both of them have an unlimited amount of scheduled tasks that you can do, which is the local on your machine. So it is unlimited if you have the base $20 subscription or higher. All right, Tariq asks, can I give it a clear path instead of a folder name? So you do have flexibility in the path that you give it. So you can select something other than that folder, and it really depends on the operating system you're using as well. So Mac OS, which is on a Unix kernel, is a little bit different from how it runs on Windows, which is a little bit different from how it runs on Linux. So you have a few different ways you can interact with it. All right, so the next one is AK. How do I get that tab called scheduled? So I will swap over to Claude quickly for you. So Claude scheduled is you click cowork, right? So you have code, you have cowork, you have chat. So those are the three buttons up here. Cowork is the middle one, and scheduled is almost in the middle of the list that you have. So that is where you do the scheduled tasks. For the routines, you click over to code, and then you click routines, and routines are all of these. So these are all routines that I have set up in this particular account. I have 5 different Max accounts, so most of these are, these are not replicated, but I have other routines in the other accounts that are mostly doing business-related processes, like the triggers that I was talking about for when people push code to a repo and things like that. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. All right. So click your username in the left button on Claude app. Oh, okay. Someone's just saying how to do that. Need to pay for this feature. Well, you just need the basic Pro account or Max account, as I was saying. Ed asked, how much do you spend for all of your automations? So are you asking just for the Claude specific ones? If so, the scheduled tasks run utilizing your local machine, and any LLM calls that they do on the back end are billed against your Claude usage. So you can view your usage in the Cloud Console or on the local machine. If you're talking about my total AI spend on a monthly basis across all of the things that I do, it's about $87,000 a month in total token costs and subscriptions and everything. But just in Claude, it is $1,000 of Claude stuff just for the 5 Max accounts. But again, the vast majority of people don't do that or don't need any of that unless you are running multiple businesses and creating many fully automated social media pipelines and all that kind of stuff. So you probably only need a $20 Pro account for most tasks, but they do burn usage, as you're saying. All right. AK asked again, with the automation task, do you need to have your laptop open and on to run? Does it play catch up when you open your laptop past the time, or will it never run? So a couple things there. So if you are doing scheduled tasks, then yes, you will need to have your laptop or your desktop open. If you're using routines, which again is the cloud version, you do not need it open. It will run, everything will be done without needing any computer online other than the servers that are actually running it in Anthropic's data centers. And will it play catch up? So they do actually play catch up. The tasks will spin for a while. The threshold keeps changing. So some of the tasks that I've set up, they will continually try to run for 6 hours, 12 hours, or 24 hours. It really depends on the task and your machine and what else is going on. Sometimes they conflict with one another. So I think on the back end, Claude is getting better about figuring out how to sequence these and run multiple of them and fully utilize the different cores that your CPU has and all of these things. And so this technology is going to get better. Right now, it is a little bit clunky if you try and run a dozen different scheduled tasks that have overlapping time periods because they don't always play nice with one another. So yeah, sometimes they won't ever run because of that. All right, so Tariq, is there a free and limited AI tool that we can try automation with? So there's many different wrappers that you can get. So I'm thinking things like Bolt and Lovable and things like that that have free trials. There are, I don't think Codex is free. I think anti-gravity might be free. I haven't tested that for a while, but Google's anti-gravity is like an agentic coding tool that you can test building automations with. I know Google AI Studio for a while was allowing you to build things natively within that as well. We ran a talk for Vercel locally, like an in-person talk last Thursday, and they gave us free accounts to give to everyone. We're running an in-person program for OpenAI in Baltimore at the end of this month. And OpenAI is giving free year-long pro accounts to everyone that shows up. So there's a lot of free ways that you can do this, and many other AI collective chapters are doing similar presentations and seminars for major tech companies and give away a lot of free API credits, free accounts and things for you to get started. Another great way is to join hackathons. So go to DevPost. DevPost is the largest online hackathon repository in the world, and sign up for some of the big hackathons. And as part of the big hackathons, they give you free accounts, free API credits, things like that. So everyone is kind of like on the same page. So I think there's a lot of different ways to get free stuff if you are on a budget. I think any of those are going to be great for you. All right. The next question is there a way to calculate how many tokens the routine takes? So not directly. You can monitor your usage. There are a few like connectors and plugins and things that you can do that will monitor and give you more specific information on how many tokens your tasks and routines are using on a per turn basis, or like, each of the subtasks and all of that are using. So it's not just looking at your account level usage, right? You can see the amount of tokens used on a per task basis. I don't personally use that except for the API usage that I do. And that's typically on a per project basis where we have to report to a client or something on, all right, your project is, burning through $900 of tokens per day. So we need to budget for that and all of that. So we'll have granular token monitoring on that. But for the unlimited accounts, like the max accounts that I use, you get so many tokens that it doesn't really make sense to be monitoring them on that granular of basis, but it is something that's totally possible to do. It's not as easy with Claude Desktop as it is on something like OpenClaw and those variants, where you can get very, very granular access and reporting and everything to the token usage. All right. Rashmi, recording. So the recording, I'm going to get the recording after we're done here. and it will be edited by Claude and then uploaded to YouTube by Claude. And so that will be included in an email to everyone on this call, everyone who signed up for the actual meetup, probably tomorrow morning. That's when I have it scheduled for, but I have to do like a quality check to make sure that everything was done correctly and is ready to be mailed out and the template looks good before it's actually sent out to you guys. But all of that's automated and should be done probably at like 7 or 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, at least 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern time. So I'm in the East Coast time zone. All right, AK says, I don't have the code tab. What does that mean? So typically it means that you just haven't set it up. So some devices require virtualization to be turned on, and or some other settings to be enabled either in your Claude settings or locally on your machine. If it's not available, I would go into Claude chats and say, hey, my Claude code tab on my desktop is not showing up. Please give me the steps that I need to do to troubleshoot this if you're not able to troubleshoot it yourself. And it will walk you through that entire process. Again, this is the kind of troubleshooting that I do with my kids and some of the other kids that we teach, because we teach like, the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and like other kids organizations. And we teach them this exact process. And then kids, even as young as 6, 7, and 8, are able to figure out how to do complex or otherwise complex, troubleshooting for tech applications and local computers and everything, utilizing that process. So it's very effective. All right, Gerald. Yeah, it is expensive. That's a lot of tokens. I agree. All right, Ed, the Slack invite. You said it's not on Linktree. I can grab it real quick for anyone who's interested. I will open up Slack and I will pull the invite key. So the problem with the invite key is it expires every 30 days. And so I think Ted keeps it somewhere that's maybe not on the Linktree. So let me go ahead and grab the invite real quick. All right, invite people to AI Collective. All right, copy the invite link. I'm going to paste it in chat here. All right, so the link is in chat. I'm going to leave it in chat for a few minutes before I close up the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now, though, and because it doesn't look like we have any more